Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. The Lorne Michaels press machine was out over the weekend. The New York Times had a big article with Lorne, and that led to other periodicals doing their own. Let's take a look at the New York Times one. Lorne was talking about the current narrative that, people are fleeing SNL because they lost like 7 or 8 people, and Chris Redd left the show last week. Lorne's like, look, he didn't say look, I'm adding that. Look, we were also at 23 or 24. We got to a point where we had a lot of people, and people weren't getting enough playing time. The way the series has survived is by that level of renewal. The price of success is that people go off and do other things. Their primary obligation is to their talent and keep pushing that. And there's something so much better about the show when all that matters is the show. There's a time to say goodbye and there's a natural time for it, but the natural time just got interfered with by the pandemic. When people had side projects on streaming, people didn't have to leave in the same way they would if they were going to do a movie. They'd be gone for 3 months. We tried to do the best with the cast that was there, and at the same time, my first responsibility is to keep the show fresh. Things grow stale. I don't think we'd gotten stale because the people we had were so gifted and at their peak. What I want the show to be is that there's a reason to watch it live because you don't know what we're going to do. Something big happened in the news, you want to see how we're going to deal with it, and you know the people you're hoping to see deal with it. As for the new cast members, Lorne Michaels says, I think all 4 are fresh. They bring things we don't have, and they're complementary to the people we already have. And people like Kate and Adie, we had superstars, and it's only because you got to know them over the years that they grew in stature. The new people could last for years. They're not load-bearing walls. They're not yet what they're going to be, but at least half the fun of watching the show is watching people that are beginning and discovering them. The Times asked Lorne about James Austin Johnson. Lorne said, what I love about James's Trump is it's the diminished Trump. It's the guy at the back of the hardware store with a lot of opinions. He's not this giant existential threat. How about Weekend Update? Still Jost and Che? Lorne said, yes, particularly coming into a midterm election. I just need that part to be as solid as it is. You going to retire, Lorne? I have no plans to retire. I'm not a big person for celebrating. Even the 40th anniversary show in the end, the only way I got through it is because I knew I was doing a show, and at a certain point, the credits would roll and would be off the air. The 50th will be a big event. We'll bring everybody back from all 50 years and hosts and all that. It'll be very emotional and a very strong thing. There won't be as many +1s, I can tell you that much. So that was the Times article. The New York Post had their own, and they caught up with Tom Shales, who's a longtime TV critic. Shales predicts that after Lorne leaves the show or retires, however you want to position it, Lorne will have an office at 30 Rock and hang out, but he'll feel self-conscious. He'll keep his office and feel sheepish about being in there. He'll be the gray old eminence, and that's not his style. He'll say, I don't want to be involved in the weekly show, but he won't be able to resist it. That'll bring some complications. I'll jump in there. My legacy career has been working in radio, and I've both worked with the guy that used to be the program director and isn't anymore, and I've also been the guy that used to be the program director and isn't anymore. And in both cases, the guy that used to be the program director, sometimes me, you can't help but comment because you're just like, I know what I want to do here, and it's not your role, and then you annoy the new program director. So yeah, Lorne half in, half out would be hard on the next person. The Post spoke with an industry source about Chris Redd's departure, and as the Post positions it, they hinted that there might be more to Redd's departure than what was announced. The quote, not the easiest person, to be honest. There was a need to calm him down over stuff. He had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. The industry source says there are definite stars on the current show. Jost and Che are good anchors for the show. Ego's getting more time. Chloe Fineman is the rising star. Bowen could do so much more than they're using him for. He's so popular. I agree with that. Bowen is criminally underused. Criminally is a little hard. I'm sorry, Lorne. I don't want to send you to jail for not having Bowen Yang in enough sketches. Maybe I was a little harsh there, but, poke, use him a little more. The industry source says Bowen and Chloe are natural stars. From Esquire, there was a big article about Nikki Glaser. Now, I didn't get too much out of the actual article about Nikki Glaser, but I did get one thing that fascinates me. The byline caught my eye. The article is by somebody named John McDermott. That's my name, even though I'm like, hi, I'm Johnny Mac. I'm John McDermott. But I didn't write that article, so I was like, let me look at other John McDermott and see what he's up to. His Twitter handle is @McDermott. That's the Twitter handle I wanted back in 2007, and I couldn't get it, so my personal one is @McDRadio. I really don't use it. I use the Daily Comedy News one more often. So now I know who has the @McDermott, and it's a guy with my name who's covering comedy. It's a small world, but I didn't write this article. In the article, Gary Goldman spoke about Nikki Glaser. Listen to this high praise. Usually people have a persona and charm on stage and then the writing comes together, but Nikki wrote really great, original, strong, tight jokes from the start. There are some people you meet like Amy Schumer, John Mulaney, and Kevin Hart, and it's obvious they're stars, and it's just a matter of when, not if. Nikki was in that category. Arizona Central spoke to Lewis Black about how he rants. And Lewis clarified, it's part of an act. If I was acting like that all the time, I'd be dead. He reiterates, I'd be dead. He's safe when he goes out. I'm carrying a mask around on my wrist. I do put it on when I'm inside with people, but I do it about 75% of the time. People go, why do you do that? Because I had to cancel a ton of shows, and I don't want to be the person who has to cancel again. I don't want to get sick. They started talking about a, quote, former leader. They didn't say the person's name, but the context clues makes me think they're talking about Donald Trump here, because the quote is from Lewis. In New York City, everybody knew for a long time that our former leader was cooking the books, okay? 9 out of 10 New Yorkers didn't want him to be the president of the United States. Got it? There was a reason, because we lived with him, and now it's coming to pass that they caught him. Those of us in the city have been waiting a long time, because we're the ones who had to suffer. Yes, as somebody who grew up in New York City, Donald Trump was not the most popular person. We always saw him as just like, he's like Mr. Burns. He was like a cartoon character, rich guy with like everything was kind of gaudy and gold and like, all right, whatever. We didn't really pay attention to him other than like somebody that the New York Post would cover. The topic then switched to the pandemic. One of our great failures as a people, one of the reasons that we're not as great as we should be, is because we do everything at the last minute. It's been how many years dealing with climate change? And now we're going, oh yeah, let's do something. Oh yeah, let's deal with immigration. We got two sides that argue about immigration who both have let everything fall to bleep. Why? Because they didn't deal with it. Now they're going, I can't believe it. Well, you didn't do anything. Now do it. We respond to a crisis the way a student will respond to having a final exam the next day. Take a little speed, stay up all night and study. Pandemic, there was a half-assed form of leadership on both sides. Instead of creating division, they should have come together and figured it out. It just felt like, come on, guys, can we stop fighting for 5 minutes? We got a real problem on our hands. I always thought since I was 9 or whatever, if there was an alien invasion from all the movies I watched, that the world would come together and fight the aliens. Well, that's what we'd had, an alien invasion, and we didn't come together. Lewis adds, my job is to scream, okay? I do it in a public space for people who like to hear someone scream. That's the deal. Just for Laughs Toronto continues. Let's see who's playing tonight, and were you and I there, what would go see? 7 o'clock, Melissa Villasenor. We saw her last night. Ivan Decker, Mark Little, Randy Feldface. Saw him last night. Veer Daz. Did we go see Veer Daz last week? I can't remember. If we didn't, let's go see Veer Daz. If we did, let's go see Ivan Decker. 8 o'clock, Dakota Ray Aber. Mission Totally Possible. Rising Stars of Comedy. Gay AF Comedy and 8:30's Absolute Comedy. Let's go see the Rising Stars of Comedy. 9 o'clock, Reese Nicholson, Beth Stelling, Nick Thune, and Not Another D&D Podcast. I don't think we've seen Nick Thune this time around. Let's do him. 10 o'clock, Emmy Blotnick or Late Night Stage Fright. Let's see what that is. Late Night Pro Stand-Up Comedy, Wednesdays at Nothing Fancy. Every week, Habib Siam hosts a lineup of some of his favorite Toronto comics. I want to do that. I like seeing local people. Tonight, Olivia Statler, Kyle Patan, Dina Jackson, and Dave Burke. I don't know any of them. You probably don't either, but we're going to go do that show. This is a great festival. I couldn't go up there. Between the Queen dying and marathon training and everything else I do for a living, I just couldn't go up to Toronto, but it's such a good festival. 10 o'clock, Pat Regan. We talked about him yesterday as a comic to watch, and Mike Rita. I think last week those two paired up, and I said, throw a dart and we'll go see one. Whichever one we didn't see last week, let's go see the other one. And then 11 o'clock, The Dark and Dirty Show. No description. Should we go? Sure. It's at Comedy Bar. Comedy Bar will at least sell us a beer. Let's go, and if we hate it, we'll leave and we'll go to sleep. Vulture has been doing their Comedians You Should Know. One of them, Amy Miller. Amy Miller's jokes have an unmistakable bite to them, writes Vulture. She had a 2022 half-hour special for Comedy Central called Ham Mouth. Watching Ham Mouth can feel almost like a roast where Miller addresses a dais populated by all the world, including herself, and picks off targets one by one. She goes after her family's weight. I have a huge family. There's also a lot of people in it. Good joke. Straight girls who exclusively date tall men to feel safe. And even the network that produced her special. The joke, I accidentally turned 40. They might actually edit that out because I think it's illegal to say that on Comedy Central if you're a woman. All right, Amy Miller, what comedy hill will you die on? She says, comedians, tip the staff. Headliners, ask who your openers are and what they're being paid. Audience members, please wear a whole shoe. I don't want to see your man sandal resting on my stage. You bought a ticket to an event, you're a grown-up, put on a whole shoe. Sorry, I was just in Colorado again. Also, comics, tell people you respect and love that you respect and love them now. We die young so often, we might as well be professional effing wrestlers. Encourage your friends who are doing a good job or being good people. I like to tell my friends I'm earnestly proud proud of them. You never know when someone will need that. To the industry, hire fat people and hire poor people. We live in a poor, fat country. If your writer's room is all 22-year-old Ivy League kids with abs, that is not representation. And that is your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your shows. If you'd like the shows ad-free and early, usually the afternoon before, you can become a premium subscriber. It's $5 a month. And the first month, you can do a trial. You can see if you like it. And first month's free. If you don't like it, don't do it. I'm not offended. See you tomorrow.